Here's how to use Drag World effectively for Locomotion in VR. Okay, so I've been talking about the different types of Locomotion and when best to use which. In this video, I'll be discussing the pros and cons of Drag World as a type of VR movement. I'll share some tips for using it effectively, and I'll also give you some of the best use cases for this type of Locomotion. So let's get started. Drag World is when you use your VR controllers to grab the world and drag it to you. I've seen two overall variations of this type of Locomotion out in the wild. One type requires you to use both of your arms and the grip buttons to grab the environment and drag the world to you. The other type uses a controller laser called a ray interactor to select and move the environment in whichever direction desired. The good thing about Drag World is that less physical space is needed. There's less of a risk of motion sickness than continuous locomotion, such as flying or driving, since there's more control over your speed of movement. The variation where you grab the environment with your arms and drag it can add realism to specific types of situations, such as time-based challenges or simulations of injury, or like this example of Half-Life Alyx, where you're crawling through an air shaft. Now let's talk about why you might not want to use Drag World. It still poses a high risk of motion sickness. Using your arms to drag the environment can be cumbersome and can really make your arms tired. A big complaint that I got when I tested Drag World was that the action of dragging with both of your arms can give people a feeling of being injured or of crawling. That's great if that's what you're going for in your experience, but not so great otherwise. And if we're thinking about accessibility in our designs and enabling more people to get the most out of your experience, Drag World may not be an option at all for those susceptible to motion sickness or those with physical motor function impairments in their arms or shoulders, whether they be temporary or permanent. Coming up next, I'll give you some recommendations for mitigating motion sickness and avoiding fatigue. I'll also talk about some of the best use cases for Drag World, and I'll go over how Google Earth VR uses Drag World Locomotion in their experience. But before that, like this video and let me know in the comments what your questions are about motion sickness in VR, and I may answer your question in a future video. When you're using Drag World Locomotion in Google Earth VR, they grid out the periphery, but they keep the horizon visible to reduce motion sickness. They use easy to reach controller buttons for the interaction. You only need one arm or hand and a laser pointer or a ray interactor to use the interaction, which also helps reduce physical fatigue. They also give you multiple options for locomotion and comfort settings, which lets you have more control over how you move around the virtual space. That said, if you're prone to motion sickness like me, you can still get sick if you move too quickly or if you move sideways. That's called strafing in the environment. The level that you've zoomed into the environment can also affect the risk of sickness. I personally can only move around with this type of locomotion for short distances and need to stop and rest in the environment before continuing, even with all of those mitigations in place. I highly encourage you to check out Google Earth VR for yourselves. I've included the link below in the show notes. So based on previous research with a distributed demographic of real humans, in addition to my own experimentation, I don't recommend using the type where you use both of your arms to drag the environment as your primary method of locomotion. That said, there are still some valid use cases for this type of locomotion, such as designing in VR with apps like ShapesXR. Other valid use cases would be when you need to add realism to a situation, such as simulations of injury or crawling through an air shaft. If you find yourself in that use case, let the players start and stop the movement. Give options for comfort in your game settings. When possible, try to use the ray interactor type of Drag World, where you grab a portion of the world instead of having to use grip buttons to physically move your entire arm. Blur the periphery of the environment when people are dragging the world to help reduce the risk or amount of motion sickness. Only use it for short distances, since your arms can get tired very quickly from overuse. Keep accessibility in mind with your target audience. You can click on the screen right now to learn how to reduce the risk of motion sickness in VR. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.